everyone, Elisa Wood here from Energy Changemakers. I increasingly hear from people who want to bring local clean energy to their communities. They ask me what they should do, and my first answer is always partner with someone who's done this before, preferably many times, because it is not easy developing energy projects, especially if you're not deeply familiar with the technologies, the regulations, the business models, the financing. So today I am really happy to have with me a representative of an energy company that has partnered with many communities over its 25-year history. Let me introduce Ben Lavoie, Senior Director, Energy Storage and EV Solutions at Ameresco, which is a Massachusetts-based energy solutions provider. He's going to lay some of the groundwork for communities getting started on energy resilience projects. So, hey, Ben, how are you today?
Hey, Elisa. Doing great. Thanks so much for having me here today. And I'm calling in from Portland, Maine, where I live with my wife and family. And it's a beautiful 71-degree day here in Portland. So thrilled to be with you here today. And I'm really excited to have some time to speak with you about this topic.
That's wonderful. I love Portland. Ah, beautiful, beautiful place. That's fantastic. And last time I saw you, we were in another beautiful place, California. We were both on stage together at the Intersolar Conference.
That's right. Yeah, that was a great event and really, a great opportunity to take a pulse of the industry. And obviously, things have been very busy and active since seeing you last. So, we're really excited about the direction of the market in general. But also, as you mentioned, last week was our 25-year anniversary. So we really enjoyed celebrating that and really been proud of the work we've been able to do with communities and companies and other customers all across our service territories. So exciting times here at Ameresco and looking forward to our discussion here.
It's wonderful. I actually remember speaking with, I think it was George and Mike, like at least a couple of decades ago, not far after they had started. So it's
Yeah.
really been cool for me to see this company evolve too. It's very exciting. But today we're going to talk about communities and resilience and how they can develop local energy. And I want to start by asking you, what are the common challenges that communities face when it comes to electric grids?
Yeah, it's a great question, Elisa, and a really important one, right? Because all of us, as consumers or homeowners or community members, depend on energy, right, to carry about our lives and live it in the ways that we want to. But there certainly are challenges that have evolved over the years. I mean, I think a few come to mind in particular. One being, the fact that we have an aging electric infrastructure. Our electric grid has been built out over many, many decades, and that has been an evolving process, but it is, a fact that a lot of the infrastructure we have throughout the grid is, old and in need of either upgrades or repairs. And those are common things that, that occur in the industry. But it is important to make sure that we're taking action on that and doing what we can as an industry to minimize power outages for our customers and make sure that they can receive the power they need to at low costs so that it's not a disruption to their life. So, that's one main area that I think is an overall challenge that we face as an industry, and we're all working very hard to, provide solutions for, whether it's companies like Ameresco or other stakeholders like utilities or system operators or communities themselves. Number two that comes to mind is weather. We are living in a world now with more frequent weather-related events and disturbances, and not only more frequent, but as we've seen often over the last several years, when those events happen, be it a hurricane or a wildfire, the impact can be more significant, as they're often more severe these days. So that is certainly something that plays a role in impacting the utility grid and our challenges that we need to think about and plan for to the best we can to mitigate those impacts. And then I think a third, global issue we see is rising electricity demand. This is something that certainly is a very important topic right now, since we're seeing really significant projections for increasing usage of electricity that could be caused from a number of different areas. But at the home, for example, a lot of folks are adopting electric heating systems or other home electricity loads that are requiring need for more power. we're also seeing increased, manufacturing here domestically, which increases the demand on the grid, and other things like adoption of electric vehicles and heat pumps and things like that. Those have been increasing over the years. And then especially recently, there's been a lot of activity in the data center community to build more data centers to power things like AI, for example, which all these things put together is really increasing the demand for electricity in our system, which, if not accounted for effectively, can put added stress to the system as a whole, both at the local community level and broadly. So, these combination of aging infrastructure, weather-related events, and increasing demand, all create some challenges, but they're not unavoidable. And there's certainly a lot of great actions that communities can take to ultimately ensure that we can provide, reliable, low-cost power to them.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're having this conversation today because I just saw a headline before we came on about a massive power outage in Europe. I think it was across Spain and maybe Portugal. I'm not sure. But I'm sure over the next few days we'll be hearing about why that is. It could be several reasons, but it kind of underscores this need to make sure the grid is resilient, especially as you point out, in a time when we really are increasing our need for electric power through
Right.
the different uses that you described, EVs and household electrification and manufacturing, data centers, etc. So it's really a very timely discussion that we're having. I'm curious, what are the attributes of a strengthened electric grid? What should it look like?
Hmm. Yeah. I think the number one thing is reliability, right? I think any of us who depend on electricity, when we turn a light on or, start up equipment at a manufacturing facility, we expect it to work and hope it'll work without issue, right? And oftentimes the complexity around that, I think, is taken for granted. But I think number one is a system that is reliable and resilient and, has very high availability to make sure that, those communities and consumers get the power they need. And there's a lot of things that go into that, but at a high level, I think putting in equipment and infrastructure and systems that enable that by minimizing how many power outages might occur, and when they do occur, either having systems in place to continue use of that power or minimizing the impact, right? Having enough intelligence in the grid and systems in place to limit the scale of a disruption to the system to minimize how many customers might get impacted. So that's number one, is reliability, availability. Number two, I think, is cost, right? How can we make sure we are strengthening the grid and increasing that reliability for the system, but not increasing costs to consumers and to ratepayers? And that is certainly something that we're proud to be able to do with the many different types of ways we can help customers. But the reality is a lot of consumers and customers, in the States here, do face increasing electricity costs for various reasons, and that's something we're really, really mindful of to make sure that we're not increasing those costs further and even potentially reducing their electricity costs through use of low cost technologies and other financing solutions we can provide to them to offset the cost and the capital required to implement the equipment and the infrastructure that can help make a more reliable, stronger system. And then I think the third thing that comes to mind for me is how can we think about modernizing the grid in sustainable ways, right? Not only in the sense of emissions reductions, which are certainly a priority and something that's important, but how do we also make sure that it is resilient to single points of failure, so to speak? How can we make sure we're thinking broadly about these systems we put in to ensure communities aren't dependent on, a single fuel source, for example, or making sure that we're focusing on the ability to, let's say, produce power locally and distribute and generate that locally to, again, minimize, the risks that could happen to each community. You mentioned, system-wide disruptions like what we're seeing in Europe today, right? That's a very large-scale, massive issue. So there's certainly been a lot of progress over the years in distributed energy resources, just, local production and storage of electricity with batteries, for example, and also, making sure we think about customers' energy issues comprehensively and do everything we can to, make it resilient to, one single potential cause of failure. Um, and the exciting thing is all these things are real. We are very active in providing these types of solutions to communities and customers throughout the United States and Canada and in Europe. And oftentimes they are cost-effective options and solutions that, provide customers with reliability, with lower emissions, with lower costs, in ways that they can afford, which we're very proud about.
Yeah, you guys have put together some really interesting projects, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But before we get to that, let me ask you sort of what I started with here. We see that many communities really want a stronger electric system, but they just don't know how to get there. What is it that can make it so difficult if you're a community that wants to improve your resilience or wants clean energy? Why is this difficult to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think first and foremost is finding partners and stakeholders who really have a strong understanding of that local community's needs and are willing to take the time to understand their challenges, understand their needs, um, and work with them collectively to find the best solution that can be found. Energy problems aren't one size fits all solutions, right? The issues that different customers face may range and vary widely depending on where they are geographically and what types of environmental conditions they might have or what types of resources they might have available, which is going to look very different in New England where I'm sitting compared to Arizona or California, for example, right? So I think really understanding what those needs really are is step one. Um, and then, once you identify what the right solutions are for that community, the next question is how do you pay for it, right? How do you make sure that the funding can be found to pay for those upgrades, whether it's solar or energy storage work, or whether it's building efficiency measures to reduce energy waste and make systems more efficient to reduce costs, or other types of energy solutions. And I think over the 10 years now that I've been with Ameresco, that's one of the things that I think is really a strength that we're proud about, to be able to offer third-party finance solutions or savings-based contracts where the customer doesn't have to put down the capital themselves to finance the work. And those types of flexible funding mechanisms that we offer, whether it's through performance contracts or PPAs or the like, really helps take that burden away from the customer, and I think opens up many more opportunities for customers to implement those solutions. So whether it's a high school or a municipal utility or a university, right? These types of solutions can really help customers find and implement the solutions they need um, without directly being impacted by the financial costs that come along with them.
Yeah, coming up with the capital could be pretty difficult these days for communities.
Exactly. Right. And uh, I think the opportunity to implement those measures without impacting budgets is important, because that money can then go towards other important things that a local community is trying to support in their day-to-day lives. So yeah, I think that's kind of the first couple of things that come to mind, and then after that, working with folks like Ameresco who have knowledge of all the different steps that are taken to implement projects and solutions effectively, and how to navigate the different challenges that come along with any project is important, right? Whether it's what regulatory process do we need to plan for and account for to make projects can actually get built, and do it in a way that minimizes disruption from that standpoint. How do we make sure we're taking the right steps to plan for permitting or electric interconnection, and things like that? And how do we find the right technical solutions to serve that customer's need, which that's strategic for us. We're specifically focused on being a technology neutral company. We don't manufacture hardware or products ourselves, but we make sure we're flexible and able to find the right technical solutions for our customers, since they're changing every day, especially given times like this of uncertain supply chain and other things that go on in the industry. So there's a lot that goes into successfully implementing projects and solutions for communities, and I think those are just a few things that come to mind. But we really try to make sure we're providing comprehensive solutions to communities and to our customers that truly are turnkey or end to end to help them get through the process that they need with successful outcome.
So you're not going there to sell an energy product. You go in and say, okay, this customer has a problem. What would be the best solution? Whether it's solar and batteries or combined heat and power, something else. You're looking at what will work for that customer.
Exactly. We're in the solutions business, right? We don't have a single product we're trying to sell, but we believe just what you said, Elisa, and that, we want to understand their needs and craft the right solution for them. And the range of offerings, varies, but we do have a wide range of solutions we provide, be it energy efficiency or distributed generation or industrial heating and industrial process systems, all the way to larger scale generation, energy storage, and things like that. So yeah, you hit the nail on the head. We're not trying to sell a widget. We're trying to help customers solve problems and find the right solution for them.
So those are the kind of tools then that you would use. You named a bunch of them: energy efficiency and
Right.
different microgrids. Do you mention microgrids would be one? You do microgrids as well.
Absolutely. Yep. Especially for, local communities and customers, as we'll talk about later, a lot of our customers are, what we consider microgrid projects where we're trying to make sure we can support their needs during utility grid outage, but also enable those systems to produce them savings every day of the year.
Okay, let's talk about some of the project. Can you describe some of the community partnerships you're familiar with or that you've worked on that achieve, grid resilience, security, reliability, the kind of things we've been talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe to sort of continue the discussion we just had, right? I think keeping it at the local level, we're really excited about a lot of the microgrid projects we've conducted at the local level, and one great example of that actually is with the town of Wayland, Massachusetts. I think where you are today, Lisa, where we have successfully done work with Wayland to implement resiliency projects at their middle school, for example, where we implemented solar as well as other microgrid solutions for the middle school, which not only is a middle school and depends on power, for educating students, but also serves as the emergency shelter for that town. So if there is an emergency due to a weather event or the like, that facility is an important place where folks can go to, remain safe or get, some of the services they need during an emergency. So making sure that the lights stay on and that, they still have power during that outage is critical. And that sort of problem is something that we see across the country, right? Whether it's a middle school or a hospital or a military base, folks depend on, safe places that they can go to during emergencies, and energy and power is critical to making that happen. So we were able to implement that project with the town of Wayland, and successfully allowed them to mitigate power outages and operate independent of a utility grid connection, but to do it in a way where it actually delivered them cost savings as opposed to increasing their costs through the types of financial offerings that we provide that I mentioned earlier, and in ways that reduce their emissions. As a result of implementing renewable generation. It's really exciting. That's a really, small local example, but an important one for that community, and something that we've been proud to be able to, replicate at many other sites across the country. And then on a little bit of a larger scale, recently we fully commissioned a project that we call Kapono Solar out in Hawaii. This project is a really great example of a partnership between Ameresco, between the local utility, which is Hawaiian Electric, or HECO, which is one of the largest utilities in Hawaii, as well as the U.S. Navy, where we've had a long-standing relationship providing energy solutions to the U.S. federal government. So in this example, we implemented the largest solar and battery project on Oahu, which is one of the largest islands in Hawaii. And that's fully operational now and capable of delivering 42 megawatts of renewable energy to that electricity grid, which is a pretty significant percentage of their power demand there. But again, doing it in a way where we had a really, really great partnership and relationship with all the stakeholders involved, be it the local community in Oahu, as well as the utility with HECO, and with the host site, which is hosted at Joint Base Pearl Harbor Hickam, to collectively work together to bring that solution to operation and to life, and we're really proud that it's fully operational now. So again, that project is delivering lower cost renewable energy to the island of Oahu, and also providing energy security to that community and to Pearl Harbor Hickam. So it's really a great win-win-win with all three stakeholders involved. Um, and then, a third one that comes to mind is an exciting project that we recently brought online in Colorado with a local co-op utility there called United Power. So that project consists of 8 different battery energy storage systems across their grid, totaling to 78 megawatts of total capacity on the United Power system. And energy storage is really an exciting space and an exciting technology that provides really flexible solutions to utilities and to other customers, you know, and ultimately making sure that they can take control over how they're managing power on their system, and reducing costs and increasing reliability to the communities that they're trying to serve. So that project is fully operational. It's providing grid stability and reliability services to United Power, and ultimately making sure that their territory operates reliably and effectively, but again, minimizing costs to the ratepayers and to the consumers. So, three small examples of the many hundreds of projects we've done, but I thought those were great to sort of speak to the scale of size projects that we can provide to communities, be it on the smaller end or the larger end. And our footprint, as I mentioned, spans all throughout the U.S. and North America, the UK and Europe. So yeah, we're really excited about all the work that we've done to date, and even more excited about the relationships we've been able to maintain with communities and with the clients themselves, which is the most important thing from our standpoint.
Cool projects, very, very interesting. And
Yeah.
who knows, you may have some more coming up in Europe soon with what's going on today.
Yeah.
So thank you so much, Ben. This has been really interesting. Appreciate your insights. I think there's a lot of valuable information here for anybody who is thinking about, especially communities that are thinking about, having some sort of new resilience project. And I just want to say, if people have found this interesting today, please download our white paper on energy change makers in our resource library. It's called Energy Allies, Communities and Utilities Building Resilience Together. We prepared this white paper with Ameresco, who I'm very proud to say is also one of our ambassadors over on Energy Changemakers in the community. So thanks so much for all your participation, and thanks so much for this interview today, Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Elisa. Thanks for everything you and the Energy Changemakers team is doing to advocate for communities and the energy industry here. And we're really excited. I think I'm excited by this conversation because it reminds me of the great opportunities we have to help provide great solutions to customers to help them live their lives in the ways they want to do it. And it's really an exciting time in sort of the energy transition that we're all going through together. So thanks for having us today. Thanks for thinking of Ameresco, and really enjoyed the conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you.